All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by our friends at Gundog Outdoors. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
We say it all the time. An ounce of preparation. You need the field trauma kit. You never know when disasters. What a great segue for the topic. Get you a field trauma kit. You never know when disaster is going to strike. It's got all the things you need. Stop bleeding, stay warm, cool off. Nothing for a train derailment, though.
Nope, we don't have no train derailment stuff. With us today from Springfield, Ohio. Springfield, Ohio, correct?
Yes.
Could be Illinois or Missouri. Could be like The Simpsons. You know, there's just a bunch of Springfield and nobody quite knows. Sure.
Austin and Steve with their fire department. How far are you guys from the epicenter of where all this where the train derailment was?
About 7 to 8 miles.
Yeah.
Holy shit. What was it like that day? I mean, was there a big rumble? Did we see a big cloud in the sky? Like what? Walk us through what happened.
Actually, I just got home and I'm an old man, so I was getting ready for bed, and the tones went off, and the dispatcher said a trail derailed and caught a building on fire. So immediately I jumped up and said, "Oh, I got to go to this one. This is going to be interesting." So I got dressed and I headed to the station. So that's how it all started for me. So.
And then can we say what? Can we say this? Can we say that you're a hazmat specialist? Can we say that, or we need to leave that out?
Well, yeah, you can say I'm the chief of the Mahoning County hazmat team. I'm not a specialist, but I'm the chief.
Okay. Well, I didn't know how vague I needed to be.
We can talk about what a specialist is if you want me to.
So Austin, what'd you get a tone? What were you doing?
I was actually, I work.
Oh shit.
There's tones right there.
That's good. That's the other station. I work full time at a department a couple towns further north, and I was actually sitting in the chair. Me and my partner joking around like, "Oh wow, it's a bad call or whatever. It's gonna be an interesting long night." And we didn't think we were gonna go, and then they ended up sending our station instead of the other station to it. So we were, I think, an hour and a half later after Springfield went initially.
When did you find out that it had hazardous chemicals?
When I got outside I drove the tanker down, me and another fireman, and as soon as you got outside the tanker, you can smell it. But prior to going, there was no communication of any hazardous chemicals.
That's absolutely asinine.
Well, yes, but the thing was so bad that even like all the train cars are placarded. They're placarded on all four sides. What the classification?
That was a car wreck in front of the station.
Are you serious?
What did he say?
It's a car wreck in front of the station.
Let me peek outside.
I could hear it.
Yeah, he'll go out and I'll keep talking.
Jesus.
That's some Epstein shit.
I heard that some bitch go off too. I heard the crash.
Yeah, it sounded like there was a car accident in front of the station.
Fuck.
Life is good here, I guess. Huh? Never a dull moment.
No.
So they're transported and so there's placarding, but when you had such a mass devastation and a derailment and everything on fire, you can't even look at the placarding to give you an idea of what that was carrying. So and that is, I mean, I don't know what the solution is. Now there is a software program or an app program we can put on our phones. It's called Ask Rail, and it can tell us what trains, the times, and like what they're carrying. You have to register that as a first responder. So there is something like that, but like you said, when you're a volunteer, you're getting up, you're getting dressed, and you're more worried about getting to the station so you can get moving than sitting there trying to, look up an app. I guess
You would think though that the train company, as soon as it shows it go offline, would contact 911 and say, "Listen, this has got, whatever. What's the chemical that we're hearing that's in this? It's some kind of acid, isn't it?"
Well, there's actually 7 chemicals involved. The worst one is the vinyl chloride. Then you have ethylene glycol. You have 2-ethylene hexyl acetylate, isobutylene, butyl acetate, benzene, and 2-ethylene hexyl laxer, blah, 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 blah. So, so I can't even pronounce it. So, and these are all like classified together. So a lot of people think that trains like do mixed loads, and in this case they don't. They transport hazardous chemicals. They do them in groups. So if they're like groups, they will go together. So they wouldn't, like in this train car, you wouldn't find like a flammable metal or a heavy metal like chromium powder. That would make for a very, very bad day.
So you get the call, you get there, this thing's on fire. It's been on fire for a couple of days, and somebody decided it would be best to blow it up.
Yeah, that's basically correct.
And who made that decision?
Yeah, how's that conversation even happen?
As an ex-mayor of a town, I can't imagine having to make a decision like that.
Let's blow the shit up.
Well,
Yeah.
So what happens is you had 5 cars of vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride is a polymerizer, and what that means is there's a special reaction that occurs. Now, inside of a laboratory under controlled conditions, it's a good thing because that's how you get styrofoam cups through the polymerization process. But polymerization outside of the way it's supposed to do, like on a trail derailment is bad. And what happens is they were keeping track of the temperature of the car, and as the car started to heat up, and once it starts heating up, the reaction is starting to go. And once it hits, most chemists believe that a temperature of 185 degrees will start the polymerization process. So once it gets to that range of temperature somewhere around there, if that would happen, we would have what we call a BLEVE, which is a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. So what happens is that car would just come apart from the pressure, and it would throw shrapnel of that car in all directions, probably for a half a mile.
Holy shit.
And it would level buildings. It would cause a lot more destruction. So the goal of this was to do a controlled release of the product and then burn it off. So they put 2 explosive shape charges, one on the top, one on the bottom. So the top is kind of like when you shotgun a beer, right? You put the hole at the bottom, then you put it up to your mouth, and you open the top, and all the beer runs out. Same principle. They were going to pop a hole in the top, pop a hole in the bottom, and all that fluid was going to fall out. And through the explosion, they were hoping that would catch fire, and then that chemical would burn off.
And then, is that what happened, or did it go?
That's what they did. The other option was to basically try to go up to that car and hook something into the valve system, try to offload the chemical, but there was so much. We're good.
Oh, they hit it.
They hit.
Fender bender.
It was a fender bender. Okay. So the other option was to get up there, and these cars were all mangled together. So to get in there and try to find the valve and try to get this chemical off the car, I don't know how they were going to do that. So the company that was working for the train, I don't know if they were subcontractors or actually working for the railroad. They said they've done this before. And they said they had 2 ways to do it. Both of them were bad, but they were concerned about the temperature raising of the chemicals.
So
we got 2 ways. Both are shitty, but we got 2 ways.
So we blow
it's kind of like voting for two bad politicians, right? You know they're both bad. Which one are you going to pick that's the least bad?
Right. I got 2 bad options. Let's pick the least worst.
Yeah, that's how we. Oof. Okay. So we've got this train, we've popped the top on it, we've got this chemical everywhere, we got this fire that's going. Is it still burning right now?
No, it burned out by Monday night.
So everything's down. Now we're seeing dead fish and animals everywhere, and the air is polluted. Are you worried about the drinking water where you live at?
Where we're at, no. Springfield's on a different water table than East Palestine. So that means that anything that seeps in the ground is not going to be at this end. But you got to remember something. You had at least, I want to say, at least 15 cars of toxic chemicals. And each rail car can hold up to 33,000 gallons. So now times that by 10, and simple math is 300,000 gallons of different product. Of course, you're going to get dead fish. Of course, you're going to have pollutions in the air. We're not denying that. But when you have so much product being released, you're going to have these kind of problems. Like people are saying that you can't drink the water in the creek. Well, you couldn't drink the water in the creek before the train explosion.
Right.
Because when creeks, your car leaks oil. And then when it rains, all the oil and the gasoline that we spill, a little bit here, a little bit there, ends up in those little creeks, and they move their way downstream, down to the Ohio River. So here we have the same concept. It's just in larger quantities. But the train company is going to have to clean it up. That's the bottom line. I mean,
now, so they've come out and they've said the water is okay to drink in East Palestine. If you lived there, would you gamble with that, or would you?
The guy who said that, they asked him to drink a glass, and he said no.
One guy drank a glass. I saw.
Well, yeah. So I was with
I don't know
that.
if there's anything in it.
There's three kinds of water. There's the municipal water, which is off their deep wells. Then there's well water, and then there's like just the groundwater, which the creeks and all that's contaminated. If you have a private well, they're telling everybody to get it tested and to drink bottled water till you get it tested. The municipal water that comes from the deep wells, they're all tested safe. They're continuously testing, but it's safe to drink. But the mayor, Trent down there, the lieutenant governor on his Twitter, Facebook, they had a video. The fire chief, lieutenant governor, the Ohio EPA director, and him all went up to the tap. There was no special filtration system in the fire station there. And they got a glass of tap water and they all drank it because the tap water's safe because it's coming from the municipal water.
I want to see Barack Obama go there and drink a glass of that well water is what I want to see. Then I'll be safe.
Or that Gretchen girl from Sweden or wherever she's from.
Yeah.
Where's she at too?
Yeah,
I'd say have Michelle Obama come do it, but she might grow a penis, so we better skip on
that. Now, what about the air? I mean, once they brought everybody back in, I mean, is the air okay to breathe? Because I would imagine with all this floating around in the atmosphere that.
Well, we have a saying in Hazmat is the solution to the pollution is dilution. Okay, so on Earth you have the two biggest dilluters. You have the atmosphere and you have the oceans. Okay, so as this was burning off, yes, the closer you are to the center, the stronger the smell, the stronger the odors. Then as it gets carried away by the wind, it gets dissipated and it eventually goes away. Okay, so the farther you live away, the better off you are. But the fires are out, so there's no more air. There's no more like breathing issue. There shouldn't be. The only thing that there's left is the chemical that's in the ground. Now if people would stir those chemicals up, there could be a breathing issue again. But right now they're saturated in the ground, so they're being held there.
Well, our federal government hasn't stepped up with any kind of services, really, have they?
Last I heard, I thought DeWine made a plea to the president, and the president refused to sign off on the FEMA. So I don't know if it's politics involved. I don't know.
Yes.
If I don't know if they want the train company to pay for everything. But I was telling Austin here, I said it shouldn't really matter. Get the money where it needs to be, so we get it cleaned up, and then you can always turn around and get the money off. The federal government can get the money off the train company.
Well, our federal government's too busy fucking going to Ukraine, wasting our money to help American citizens. What's going to happen is Donald J. Trump is going to get involved and go there.
He's coming there, isn't he?
And that will change shit because has he been there yet?
He's coming Wednesday.
Okay. On tomorrow, then, the federal government is going to release funds to them to help because Trump got involved. Because there's some spineless bastards in Washington, D.C.
Right. I think that may be correct, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, that's when it'll happen. And the same thing will happen when Trump goes to the border again. They'll shut it down again. When he starts getting involved that heavy, it's going to happen because the media, whether they like him or not, at least will report of what's going on. There's no reason why the United States government has not helped the good people of Palestine, Ohio. Absolutely no reason at all they shouldn't do that. And if it's a money deal, that's the biggest bunch of shit in the world because they can always sue that train company. But the train company is owned by Warren Buffett and a bunch of other billionaires, and they're lining their pocket on that. And that's why we're doing trains, because pipelines are dangerous, they say.
No, actually, your safest form of transporting toxic or hazardous chemicals is pipelines.
That's right.
That's the safest.
That's exactly right. But they don't want to do that. But
right.
you are 100% correct. You said the magic words right there.
Pipeline.
Pipelines are the way to go.
Right. And the problem was train. It started back with Rockefeller and oil, that every train car that goes over the track to get money.
Yep.
So that's why it's big business,
Now, I was told, and you can probably look it up. I did not look it up. I was busy this morning. I was told there was a train in Tennessee or somewhere where they found some explosives on some tracks.
Philadelphia.
Where was it at?
It was in Philly.
Is in Philly.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
But they did find that, correct?
Supposedly they found something.
I did see an article on that, but I didn't read it in full. I just saw it real briefly. So,
what caused this train derailment? Do they know? Is it just shitty old lines, or was it malicious?
Well, I don't know about malicious, but they do have ring camera footage.
Yeah.
As far back as Alliance, Ohio, where one of the bearings on the wheels on the car was overheating. You can see it sparking, and you can see some flame coming out of the wheel. Then when there was the bearing failure, that's what maybe caused the train to derail. But they have actual footage.
So it was just shoddy cars on the train track company, so they should be 100% liable for all of this.
Yes.
Who installed the rail lines?
Well, it might have been Rockefeller about to on some of them.
But this was on the
train company owns the lines.
From what I understand, that the only thing the train company owns is the tracks and the engines. The cars that transport the product or services or goods or whatever you want to call it are leased. So if you're ABC and you want to transport like grain, you would lease a grain car to put on the tracks, and they would take it. That's from my understanding. I'm not.
They're all owned by the same people, but they just do it that way. So in case if something like this happens, they're limited liability on all of this. I'm sure whoever owns.
Correct.
Which is the train company up there? It's not Burlington Northern. What is it?
Norfolk Southern.
Norfolk Southern. And I'm gonna bet you, if you look, I bet you that the guy at Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, I bet owns that or part of it. But that's what they do. They have other shell companies do this in case something like this happens. But the train tracks are put in by a train company, the train Norfolk Southern. But
the tracks
are, yes, they own the tracks. They put them down. When they took all the train tracks up here, a rail company sold that. But what's happened is their infrastructure is bad. They showed some bridges yesterday, and it'd be scary as shit to ride on a train across some of them. They need to be fixed.
But that's what I'm saying. We haven't done anything to improve our infrastructure at all.
Well, no, we got the guy with the two dad lovers with the little babies. It's our Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, and he ain't gonna do shit. And I mean, that's Gay P don't give two shits about nothing. And
Norfolk Southern, if you go to their thing, they've already got resources for the East Palestine community. So.
They're probably going to do a GoFundMe and try to get us to pay for the shit. So the people there, have they been locked up in their house for the whole time?
So initially they were evacuated. There was that 1 mile evacuation zone. Just because if it did levy, they were worried about. There's a video. I think it's in Livingston. Was it Livingston, Texas, or where's that one?
Yes,
from the 80s?
Livingston.
Yeah.
They that train car went like a mile. So initially they evacuated everybody a mile, and I guess it was some people that decided they weren't going to leave their house no matter what they were told. And I'm not leaving my house. Damn it! I don't care if there's a train off the tracks or not. So there was some people in there, but everybody was told to kind of stay back just as a safety precaution. But everybody's back now. I mean, you're free to travel through town.
The incident occurred on Friday night, and they were allowed back in their house on Wednesday evening.
Yeah.
The crazy part is how hard it is to just be a good person. The people from Norfolk Southern should have told those people, go to 50 miles away and get the hotels, lease all the rooms up at the hotels, and put those people up in the rooms. Instead of, you get your rooms and we'll reimburse you later. Well, some people.
The Vanguard owns Norfolk Southern.
Okay. And BlackRock owns a bunch of shit too, I heard. But anyways, what happens is those people can't afford it. Not everybody's got a credit card with a $10,000 limit and it's open. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. Those people I feel sorry for because they've been put out. And there's no help. We have a house fire in our little town right here, and we're going to put people up in a hotel, whether it's someone in a local citizen or our ministerial alliance is going to do it. And it's just not that hard to be a good person. Is this the chief? Right. Is this the chief sitting in now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
His nickname is Big Sexy.
Big Sexy.
Andy played football with a black kid. That's what I used to call him too. So Big Sexy.
And I was white chocolate. So
there you go. Okay, Chief. Okay, Chief. I got a question for you. Do you think the federal government's going to pay you and get this all cleaned up, or do you think we're going to have to go through all kinds of court back cases to get them to do the right thing?
Just from what you read and see, it's hard to say. You know how the government works, they're slow. Everything I've dealt with them, it'd be nice to see them do the right thing here, but it's hard to say. I mean, they've already put the rails in and they're running the trains on the dirt that never got cleaned up. So
wow.
So they're not there. There's no way that they're going to clean this shit up.
Nope. All about that money from Norfolk Southern is going through there.
They're not good. There's no way. If they're already going back to business, like they're not going to clean this shit up.
The people that are running them trains are the people in Washington, D.C. That's them same people. Them politicians up there are getting paid by these companies to keep that train line going. That's terrible. So the government didn't go in and set up a food tents or anything for people, locals?
They hadn't fucking been there.
I know. That's what I wanted him to tell me.
I think the local people were the ones that, like, when we were first down in the command post, the food that was there for us was all provided by the local people. So they were
local restaurants,
local
families cooking and stuff. I mean, it's just the locals are taking better care of the place and than the government and everything like that. And it's a shame. I mean, but it's normal operating procedure this day and age with the government.
No, it's a small rural community, so they're just going to take care of themselves.
Not enough votes down there to make a difference.
That's exactly right. If this shit would have happened in the ghettos of Chicago, fuck, we'd lock down the whole place.
We'd have every resource available. Now, there's a video that I saw, and you know how the social media is, of a fella in, I believe, Canada. They got a snow. It's melting, and he's blaming the rainbow color that's left on the asphalt from this explosion in East Palestine. True or false?
Ontario.
I am not enough of an expert to pass judgment on that, but that seems kind of far-fetched, but I'm not 100%.
Have y'all had a hard south wind that would have pushed all the all that shit north?
Well, it was on the day of the burn, the wind was going southeast to east, but at 9 o'clock in the evening, while it was still burning, the wind actually shifted
northwest,
and that kind of never happens. That's very rare. And then we end up smelling the burning up in Mahoning County, and then the county north of us, they were smelling it also. So
I want to get this straight real quick, just so I can get this back. We talked about this a second ago. They have already running trains on the same ground without doing any fucking cleanup that the trains crashed on, right? The train line is open again.
Look, I think the Ohio EPA sent them a letter about that they needed to clean the dirt up or something under the one track. If you look on the I'm pretty sure the Ohio EPA posted a letter.
I think it was 10 minutes after they gave the all clear for the residents to return to their homes. The first train went through town.
That's just. Do you remember the Times Beach, Missouri shit? Do you guys are older guys, same age as me? Do you remember Times Beach, Missouri? And they had something, chemical spill or something. And the whole fucking town's has been done away with for 25 years. It's just locked down and a fence around it, and they left like Chernobyl.
3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
But we've got a train with a bunch of shit in it. We had to blow it up with explosives, I guess, and then we're going to put a train on it within 10 minutes of it opening it up. And we wonder why nobody trusts our fucking federal government.
But okay, so
Pretty much in a nutshell there.
so when it starts, if all this stuff just lays where it is, and then when it starts raining, are we just not gonna see just more contamination when that shit leaches into the ground?
But possibly, I'm like you said, I'm not a chemist, I'm not an industrial hygienist, but if that chemical's still in there, yeah, you always have the potential of it keep going down and getting into the water table, which like we talked about earlier about the wells.
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to go into the streams and continue to flow to the Ohio River. So that could be continuing, ongoing. So
the water's clean to drink now, but we're just gonna leave it sit there for 6 months, and then when fall rolls around, then it won't.
Would you drink out of it?
I trust the EPA, Jeff.
You're a fucking fool. I wouldn't drink out of that shit for nothing.
Listen, didn't the EPA the same organization that said that the air was okay down at the World Trade Center when on 9/11 and go down there without a mask or some bullshit? Didn't they say the air was good to breathe down there? So
well, it's when you're on Epstein's Island, it's hard to tell the air in Ohio. Let me tell you the four biggest stockholders in Norfolk Southern: Vanguard, BlackRock, SSGA, and JP Morgan. All the big lobbyist money that's getting all that fucking 10% back from Ukraine. Some companies right there. That's where those people are who we have, that they have our best interest. I call bullshit on that. I'm betting you that 10 years from now, the good people in Ohio are in a lawsuit with Norfolk Southern and they drop a case and they don't get a dime out of the deal.
Well, there's already 2 lawsuits that have already been started. One federally as a class action, and the other one was started in a common police court down in Columbiana.
what are they suing for?
I don't know. I didn't read the brief or anything like that. I just know that they have filed a lawsuit.
See, now that seems kind of early to me.
No.
Like let's make a third dick grow on our kneecap, and then we'll start a lawsuit.
No, you got a good point there.
Like it hadn't even been a week.
Well, I mean, the area has been flooded with attorney advertisements. We have every attorney.
Facebook, Instagram,
TV show. They're all advertising. If you live in East Palestine,
free luncheon and free water, everything.
Call Wickham, Stickham, and know how to do it. You call the 3 attorneys of law, and they'll take care of you.
It's like like we have a hailstorm here. All the roofing companies come to the small towns.
Lots of signs.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing when there's roof damage. Yeah,
that's that's just absolutely. So the federal government, y'all's governor, yeah, he's a Republican. Is he very well liked right now, or is his numbers pretty low? Or is he a deep state guy or a good guy? That's I got you now. I understand what you're dealing with here.
Depends on what the narrative is.
Well, he should,
when it was lock them down COVID, then locked us down, and now now he's into this, and it's just that was a high Republican area down there, but yeah, it's interesting to see how far he's going to take it and how long they stand behind the first responders and what they're going to do for us. Because, we're down there thinking we're kicking ass and putting fires out and saving these businesses. And here we start reading what the hell this shit is that we're fighting fires on. And an hour into the incident, they didn't give a rat's ass what blew up. 5 hours later, they want us to drop our hoses and leave.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. What kind of
why did they want you to drop your hose and leave?
Dangerous.
Because if one of those tanks blevied, it would have killed almost 300 firemen.
So explain that to me, because that's something that I don't understand. Did they just they knew that there was these chemicals that were in it, and they knew that was a possibility. So why did it take 5 hours for them to be like, no, pull back? Had the fires just gotten out of hand?
No, I think we were gaining on it. Because we put I was on the north side of the tracks, and my assistant chief was on the south side of the tracks at that one business there, Sermafab. And we actually put out one of the rail cars that had plastic pellets. It was a hopper car with plastic pellets in it. And, we put the fire out. And here I talked to one of the insurance agents, the company that insured that building. And, he was kind of impressed. He's like, that building's still standing. And he says, the company's kind of impressed, too, that building's still there. And I says, well, our department was in charge of, protecting that building, and we're kind of proud of it. But you look back at it, the buildings are replaceable, but the shit that we was in, I don't think we're going to see the full side effects of it, or the full effects of it on the county and the personnel and the people of East Palestine. I feel for them. We was only down there for 6 hours, and then we left, but they got to live with it. Where are they going to go?
Are you wearing oxygen tanks the whole time that you're down there, or are you just breathing that air?
If you was in the, fighting fire, and you was out there on the front, you had your tanks on. But if you're in the back, like not in the smoke, but you're still in the hot zone, but you're not.
I was pumping. I didn't have a tank on, but I was probably 100 yards, if that.
Yeah, but
I was upwind from it, so the wind was blowing. The wind was to my back, blowing away from me, but still, we kind of kept our tanks close in case the wind changed.
And, I was on the north side there, and I wasn't fighting the fire, but I wasn't in the smoke or anything, but you still had that odor, the smell of it that you were smelling. It wasn't, clean Columbiana County air. And you can definitely tell something was burning.
Yeah, if you can smell it, it's the same with them fucking masks. If you can fart and smell it through the mask, that mask ain't working. The government was making you wear, so it's the same shit.
N95.
Yeah. How far are y'all from Bedford, Ohio?
Bedford, that's up by Cleveland.
They just had a massive explosion at a metal factory there.
Yeah, I seen
that.
Is
that at Warren?
No,
there was the one at Warren.
This is
today.
This is just an hour. Just an hour ago with mass casualties, they say.
Oh, geez.
That's not good.
Fuck is going on in Ohio?
I'm telling you what's going on is we blew up the fucking Nord Stream pipeline, and the fucking Russians are blowing up our shit little by little around here, and our government's too fucking stupid to tell us.
Do you think that they made that bearing go out on that train?
No,
on the train.
We're in trouble when all the vodka is off the shelf.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know what?
You think they made the bearing go out?
Hold on. I just was speaking out of turn on that.
You were.
But how far-fetched is it to think our government blew up the Russian pipeline, and all of a sudden we're having shit like this going on all the time?
Germany's. No,
it was the Nord Stream pipeline, but our divers dove down and put explosives and blew that motherfucker up. Now we got shit blowing up all over our country right now, which normally happen. We have stuff happen. Train derailment's not that unusual, and it sounds like this was at fault of the money launderers that out of New York that own this shit, and they were cheapies and didn't get shit fixed. But these people in Ohio are paying for this shit, and our government's not going to stand behind it. Why has our mainstream media not really covered it? Because they're telling them not to. How many times have you been on Fox News in the last 10 days?
I've been on once.
How
Sarah Carter interviewed me.
But how many times have you had them here? Like, normally, would this not be something that would be all kinds of media attention the whole time? They'd be there the whole time.
The problem is we didn't vote. We didn't vote for
dumbass
ice cream.
Blue.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If
this was a Trump state, and I'm going to tell you right now, he's coming Wednesday.
we talked about that before you got here. You'll see shit change on Tuesday.
Yep,
they're going to try to stay ahead of Trump,
and they can't do it. But if this would have happened in Los Angeles, California, and that dumbass Gavin is a deal, we'd be pumping fucking money in there the next day. Within an hour, they'd be having shit set up. And people in America have got to finally stand up and get sick of this shit. We need to run every one of them bastards in Washington, D.C. out and replace them with real Americans.
And the problem with Ohio is East Palestine is one of the 3 C's. Cincinnati, Cleveland, or Columbus. That's where our money goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So until that changes, and yeah, the governor, he can change some of that stuff and the lobbyists, but we're not big enough.
Now, just to add something to that, Mahoning County Hazmat team, we're volunteer. We're all volunteer, and we're like probably the fourth or fifth largest city in the state, and we're a volunteer hazmat team. We now have one person full time, and that's what breaks your heart when you got stuff like this. And this is not my first train derailment. Obviously, this is the worst.
Yeah.
But I've been on other train derailments, and I'm by myself. The last one, because it happened during the day. All my guys work. So what am I supposed to do? I mean, here we have a Mahoning County. The county itself has a population of over 250,000 people. We have major industry, major interstates, major train routes, and I got a volunteer hazmat team.
Government don't want to spend that money.
They just not the funds aren't there to get anybody full time.
And
They don't want to release the funds. That's part of the I think problem is they don't.
And I don't know if they talked to you guys about communications, radio communications.
Well, that's a big one.
But I know there's a letter going to the governor, and just to address it, not one, like there was like 4 different operations going there where there was 4 different major scenes fighting fire, and like there wasn't one like common grounds of communications, and that's where 9/11 was supposed to fix all that stuff. The government was gonna, they still haven't got it right from then, and we still can't communicate with each other. And there's so many different forms of communication in the state of Ohio. We had VHF, UHF, 800 megahertz, the MARC system. It was all on there. And now, and the only thing you can do is there's departments that can't afford to pay for this stuff, and you think they'd step in and help us out, but it's the same old thing.
So everybody's got a different radio frequency. Is that what we're getting at? So there's no way to communicate with the town over to see how that's going on.
Yeah, like if we went in there and like we have VHF, so we'd have to switch to like East Palestine's VHF frequency. But the problem is we have mutual aid departments coming in that were on 800 megahertz frequency, which is digital, or they come in and they were on the MARC's frequency, which that's the state of Ohio's claim to fame. It's a state nation or a statewide radio frequency that everybody can use, but unless you fork over the money for it, you're not going to get it. And the thing is there was a MARC's tower in East Palestine, but it's only there to support the State Highway Patrol. It ain't there to support anybody else.
That's crazy. So whose district was it in? Are you the chief of the district that it happened in?
No, Chief Dravick from East Palestine is the chief of East Palestine.
So is he the I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. The department
The incident commander?
The what?
He would have been the incident commander,
Yes,
but
that's what I was looking for.
He was out of town at the time of the accident, and he didn't make it back into what was it, 2:30 or 3 in the morning.
So who was the incident commander for the whole thing, and he took charge of everything, right?
Yeah, his name was Rick Gorby. He's the assistant chief.
Do y'all have a state fire department in Ohio?
No.
Who was the incident commander for the whole thing then? The one chief when he got there?
Yeah, so Ohio's law is written that the fire chief is the incident commander. So like he's over, that's what nobody understands is like the ORC states that he's in charge solely, even though something like this is the fire chief's full responsibility.
It's the Ohio Fire Code, Chapter 3333.33.
Damn, 3333.33.
Surely he's not. Are you really serious, Rain Man? Or are you fucking with us?
You're screwing with me.
No, I'm dead serious. That's where you'll find it in the fire code.
Like the fire chief, like on anything that the fire department's involved in, the fire chief is the supreme
being.
Right, that's
leader until he leaves that scene and turns it over. Like he trumps the State Highway Patrol, he trumps the sheriff's department, he trumps the local police department, he trumps everybody.
even your county judge.
Oh yeah,
even a county judge.
See, in Texas, it's different on that deal. So
County judge, that big dick down here. That's right.
So
That's right. We do. We're still Wild West out here, baby.
So when he was there, all the other fire departments, he would coordinate with their chiefs that were on scene.
Yeah, and that's the problem we had is radio communications between each group. Like you had to find a guy that had that radio and coordinate with him. Like I was on our radio communicating with my assistant chief, which we're on both sides of the tracks. And we have a channel in there. It's called State Mutual Aid channel. And we flip to that. And it's basically line of sight. So I wasn't in communications with my dispatch center. We was just in communications with each other.
Right. So did the federal government ever show up with someone like, hey, I'm with so-and-so and
I'm with the federal
like
government.
a crime,
I'm here to help.
like if a plane crashes, the FBI comes in and takes over, the National Transportation Board. So nobody from the federal government come in to take charge or anything?
No, they can't unless it still fall unless the president signs a declaration of emergency.
Okay.
Then that's when the feds get involved. But I believe the declaration was never signed.
Well, no, because he had to pay money.
Right. So yeah, as far as I know, I mean,
it's a shame in 2023 that we have things like this happen and our government is not there to help support the people.
Jeff, you're always what the thing that I can't wrap my head around is that we don't have this a very good communication system.
That shocks me
that
too.
When we're 2023, like we should be able to.
Fuck if we can FaceTime each other.
Yeah, like there should be no miscommunication or no lack of communication. Like with all the technology that we got out there, are you kidding me? Like different fire departments can't communicate to one another.
Now on Monday, the day of the controlled burn, the state of Ohio was there with the Marks radios, and they were actually issuing out Marks radios to everybody who wanted one. But it didn't take that took until Monday when everything happened on Friday night.
Yeah.
So y'all just like I have a go ahead.
We can switch to the Mark system, if we want to switch to the Mark system. But we did get a big FEMA grant where we got these new $6,000 radios at a reduced rate and stuff. But now we have to pay a monthly fee because we're going to they call it the COG, it's Council of Governments. It's the 800 digital. We're going to switch to that, but our radios have the capability going 800 digital, or we can flip them back to VHF. But or we could have went to the Mark system. But our problem with the Mark system in our township is we don't have the coverage and we don't have the reception. So, you don't want to go backwards. You want to go forward.
Right.
And the county also looked at switching the whole county over to the Marks system. But the Marks radio system said, yeah, it looks good. Long story short, they had a couple meetings and everything they thought was going good. And then the state of Ohio, which is Marks, they come back and said, well, if you give us $4 million to upgrade your system, we'll take you on after you give us the $4 million.
Right.
Yeah, and that means you wait.
Out of the county's coffers and everything else. And then on top of that,
you still pay on the radios.
You still pay a monthly service fee.
That's crazy. We are in Hooterville. We do things a little bit different here.
Yeah, I just found out today that supposedly DeWine waived the fees
on Marks radios.
Yeah, a couple months ago, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have to look into that.
He just got $4 million.
We went from analog to digital now, which means everybody at home can't listen on their scanners like they used to. But our radios suck now compared to what they used to be.
How do you listen?
I've got a digital radio.
Oh.
But
the judge.
Yeah.
He's the judge. Yeah.
Well, you can't scan it. You'd have to get one of those cell phone scanners because it's on the same 800. It's the same frequency as cell phones. But like we run it encryption, so therefore you would have to have an actual radio to hear. But if you didn't have encryption, you should be able to hear it.
But the point is we're making things harder on ourselves. Back in 1965, everybody could talk to each other on the same fucking radio frequency, and I don't
pretty much.
Yeah, and we keep going backwards. When I first moved to Knox City 30 years ago, you could buy a scanner at Radio Shack for $70. You could listen to everything going on. But shit, everybody knew what was going on. But our 3 undercover cop cases that we have every 10 years here, we're just afraid a druggie might find out where a cop is. So we went to all this expensive shit that don't work.
And cut down on our entertainment on Friday and Saturday nights, because that's what we would do. We'd sit around and listen to the fucking scanner.
Common sense gone.
Yeah. Common sense has definitely gone out the window, and it's just everything costs more and more, and it's getting worse and worse. And the thing is now, with these radios, they talk about, in fire department, line of duty, death, communication, all this other stuff. Now we're going to a scene with our radios, and we're going to be like, okay, does this department have VHF or do they have digital? Well, okay, they have VHF, so let's switch our digitals to VHF. And what happens when that one guy doesn't switch, and we leave him somewhere?
Yeah. And
the thing is would you think it'd be so easy to just make it common, but Motorola's pretty much got the front seat to all this stuff. So
everything's Motorola.
I don't know. Everything's just ridiculous anymore. And it ain't no wonder nobody wants to do this job anymore.
Yeah. That's the scary part, is that, there's not a big line anymore at the academy for anything. Fire department, police department, teachers union, all these critical jobs that we need to keep America running. Nobody wants to do it anymore.
No,
there's schools in the Metroplex, Dallas, Fort Worth. There's schools that are running on, they're 200 teachers short. That's not going to change anytime soon, especially with the way that the pensions and shit are working in Texas now. And I can't imagine what fire departments are faced with.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my fingers around the fact that six different fire departments in one county can't come together with a damn radio system that would work for everyone. That blows my mind. To me, that just would be a real simple system. Go to channel 3. But
the problem now is now we got, like, the east side of our county is going to be on, like, the 800 system. The west side's going to be on the MARC system. So it's like, and this is a problem with the government. They left it happen. They in reality, they're in charge of it because it's, the county's 911 system. They left it happen. It's not that the firemen, we all want to work together, but you got departments that are budget constraints, and they're trying to make what works for them the best. And then you got these departments that are, decent, and the county chiefs meetings are interesting some nights.
That what you said is exactly right. I hadn't thought about that. If you call 911, you ought to be able to call 911. Someone will be able to page an ambulance out, and it ought to be able to come immediately. It shouldn't be that big a fucking problem on getting them over a radio. So I'm assuming you're having the same issues with your ambulance that you are with your fire department.
Mahoning County.
Yeah. Out of the 88 counties in Mahoning County, you probably got the most entertaining one.
So I'm assuming the ambulance deal is another story on itself.
Yeah, we have to do another podcast on that.
Yeah.
I was about to say, it depends where you're at. It's how good your ambulance is going to be.
That's crazy.
It's fucking scary.
It's like when you go to Mexico. I tell everybody in Mexico
may or may not come.
At least in America, you can call 911. Sometimes you're going to get help, unless you're in Ohio.
And then it's just
every
man for himself.
We had Youngstown police officers put people in their cruiser, take them to the hospital.
Youngstown Fire was driving guys.
Yeah, Youngstown Fires, they were driving them in their fire trucks to get them to the hospital because the ambulance wasn't coming.
That's scary.
One thing I haven't seen about all this, did anybody get hurt, or was there any casualties in this train derailment?
No.
It's all going to be 5 years from now when all the shit.
Yeah, when we grow a third testicle, we'll
right. That's when we'll know. Until that time, like it's anybody's guess.
Is that a woman or is that Michelle Obama?
They were there at the train derailment. But so how, best guess, like how far did this shit have to like blow before it was no longer detrimental to your health?
I don't quite
like
understand what you're saying.
Like when all this shit was blowing.
it off.
Well, are you talking about Monday when they burned all the chemical off, had the controlled burn, or are you talking about the initial night of the incident? Okay.
Either.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, the product was there. The fire was going out. I mean, we still had fire burning all weekend. Just smaller amounts of it. So there was always, the chemical, the burning, the decomposition of the chemical going into the atmosphere all weekend. But it just got reduced after the main attack on the fire. And then when you had the controlled burn, I mean, you put a lot of crap in the atmosphere real quick, and it got carried and got dissipated, I
don't think you can really say how far though.
No.
Well, Trumbull County was smelling it. So you're looking at what, 30 miles maybe?
Yeah.
Plus.
They weren't getting anything on the meter, so.
Yeah. But they can smell it. Remember, your senses can smell a lot. You're not actually smelling the chemical because the chemical was in decomposition from the fire. So you're smelling kind of like burning leaves. You smell the smoke. Yeah, you smell the smoke. You can be a little ways away and you can smell it, but it doesn't mean it's harmful to you. You're just smelling like the decomposition of the leaves.
Right.
So I don't know.
So it's really kind of hard to tell, like where it would be detrimental to you, where a line was. Just because you smell it doesn't necessarily mean that it was affecting your body.
Right. It basically goes by how close you were, because when you deal with toxicology in the human body, it's the amount of the exposure or the amount of chemical versus the mass of the body. So obviously, the smaller you are,
little skinny guys are dropping like flies.
Little skinny guys will drop like flies. Bigger guys, you need more of the chemical. Yeah. So it's basically the closer you are.
It's good to be fat.
It's good to be fat. Yeah.
It's good to have some extra body weight. So what does your job look like? It's Friday night, like you said. You're an old fart, and you were getting ready to get tucked into bed, and then tones go off. Like, are we? Like, what do you do whenever you?
I was out putting wood in the wood burner, and the tones went off.
How dare you? You're putting carbons in our atmosphere.
I was filling it.
If it's not one thing, it's another. We got this train derailment, and you're burning fucking wood. So like, we're screwed.
Damn fireman. And the tones went off. So my youngest, Colton, he shot out of the house
down there with us this year
to the station up here in New Springfield, and I went to the main station where my command car is, and basically the trucks were filling up the stations, and engine 23 and tanker 23 went en route, and my assistant was on engine 23, and he said, well, just hold the other stations up until we figure out what we really got. And you could see the glow in the sky from the station here in New Springfield.
I'll text you, Andy, once we get off. If I have a couple photos, I can text you from our house, like 7 miles away of the glow.
And then just the glow that was in the glowing right there?
Yeah.
So, and then, I got to the station, and he went down there, and he said, have the tower respond, and some personnel weren't real familiar, so I took them down. They followed me down in the command car, and we got there, and it was just like, holy shit, this is real. And it was impressive, and the shit exploding and burning off, and it's just like, if we put this out, we're the shit. But
where was the engineer at of the train?
Left. Hold on. That's a good question, and I'm going to explain what this individual did. So what happened is once the train derailed, they got out of the train. They went back as far as they could, and they uncoupled the car. And he took the train, the remaining cars, and he took them away. And he went to I don't know what rail yard, and parked his train there with the rest of the cars. And no one's talking about this story. I even told it Fox News, and he didn't put a beep on the news. The thing about this is, car number 2 was liquid propane.
Woo! Oh shit!
And if that was involved in that fire, we wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. But I mean, whether you're going to blame the engineer or not, I don't know. But that guy did it. I mean, I don't know if that's policy, but he did a hell of. I don't even know if he knew car number 2 was liquid propane. But he disconnected, and he took the rest of the cars. We would have had a bigger issue if that liquid propane was involved in that fire.
Yeah, he done a hell of a job. Big balls on Cowtown right there by that guy for sure.
And it might not even been big ball. It might have just been I don't know what's in here, but
I'll bet you an engineer knows what's on his train.
You think?
What's
Yeah,
that?
I bet the engineer knew what was on his train.
Yeah, they have a constant. It's a printout of every car in the exact order that's on the train. So I mean, he would know. And in fact, the hazardous materials are printed in red. And the rest of the non-hazardous are printed in black.
Yeah, that was a good job on his part then.
What do you think the blast radius would have been like if all of this would have worst case scenario?
It probably would have definitely leveled some buildings, and if any firefighters that were around, they probably would have been killed.
I think they said initially just the vinyl chloride was 500 yards in all directions. Yeah. They were worried about leveling.
Yeah, and that's 500 yards. You're looking at probably a liquid propane. You're looking at about a half a mile of devastation.
No. That's what I meant with the liquid propane. Yeah. A half a mile.
Probably at least a half a mile, if not more.
Half the town, basically.
Holy shit!
But the problem is if the liquid propane would have went off, then all your vinyl chloride cars would have went off too, because the concussion and the blast, it just would have been a simultaneously effect on everything in that row.
Holy shit! How many other train cars of chemicals were there?
There was 20 something altogether. I think 15 were involved in the derailment, because there was like when a train derails, then there was 149 cars. Come on, man.
Sorry.
You're good.
There was 149 cars on this train, and car number 2 had a hazard, and then towards the end. But trains not the whole train ever derails. It's always the front end, the middle end, or the rear end.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, it was the middle of the car. So there was some hazards still on the tail end that never were involved in the wreckage. So I think there was like about 15 cars, and that's off the top of my head, that were involved in actual derailment and burn.
Yeah. Right. And then if the liquid propane gets involved, it's just going to set off a chain reaction down the whole line.
Oh, it would have been 10 to 100 times worse if that car was involved.
Jesus Christ. I did not know that. And like you said,
and listen, I told Fox News, and it doesn't even make the evening show. It's
because we don't have any real journalists.
Except for you and me, Jeff.
That's right. We're real journalists. We're asking questions. Everybody else, we're asking things people want to know.
And it'll be in the interview, because I'm not taking anything out.
But they'll keep putting a guy on TV that calls himself a hazmat specialist, and he wants to sit there and say we chemically nuked a town, and that's completely scaring people, because nuclear and chemical are two different things. But he wrapped the two together, and he made it sound like we're all going to die. It's the apocalypse. Nuclear radiation is totally different than chemical. Nuclear radiation is like Chernobyl, which you'll never recover.
Right.
I mean, it'll take 1,000, 100,000 years. Chemical we can recover from. It part of the cleanup process, and obviously the breaking down of the chemical over time, but you're going to recover.
So is that what they're saying? They got these hazmat specialists on that are telling everybody we effectively chemically nuked a town?
Yeah. He calls himself a hazmat specialist or expert, but he's like me. I'm not a chemist. I'm not an industrial hygienist. I'm a first responder, and my expertise or my knowledge is with the hazmat team, and I try to mitigate the scene. I don't solve problems. I couldn't tell you the chemical compounds of a lot of things, but I kind of know how to deal with a chemical when it's on fire or if it's leaking.
Right. And what is a specialist? He kind of know.
A specialist would be like, there's a school, the federal government puts on a radiological school. It's a week long, and you go there, you have to have a scientific calculator, and you do a lot of math equations. If I would have went to that school, and after a week I graduated, got a certificate, I can call myself a specialist in radiation. Or if I went and studied vinyl chloride for 2 weeks with a certificate, I come back, I'm a specialist in vinyl chloride. Mm-hmm. And that's what a specialist, someone who has specific knowledge or that works with that chemical or that product or that condition, and we can give them that title, specialist. But there's no certification, there's no degree, there's no test you can take to become a specialist. You can just sit there and say, I'm a specialist.
Piece of paper with his name on it.
And that's what makes me mad. They keep blasting this guy, and first he went for specialist, now he's a hazmat expert. How's he an expert? I don't get it. He had the same training in the state of Ohio as I do.
Right.
He's getting paid.
But why do Do you have a guess as to why he is kind of propagating this fear? Is he?
Well,
That makes media.
well,
It means he's trying to get famous and.
I'll say two words: tree hugger.
Oh, really?
Gotcha.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Let me backtrack a little bit. I talked earlier. I said something about Times Beach, Missouri. That right there was a chemical that they paid a guy to spray their roads with, and it was some kind of dioxin, and it started killing people. And they shut the whole town down and incorporated and fenced the whole thing up. And it's
there are going to be chemicals that like PCBs that you find in electrical transformers.
Yes.
That's an oil that does not break down. You can't even like send that off to some processing plant to neutralize it. That PCB does not break down. It basically goes in some kind of special landfill when stuff happens. So when we get a transformer knocked over and there's PCB, it's a big deal. There are chemicals that will not break down. But in this case, everything we have here is basically flammable, and it does have toxicity to it. So that will eventually break down. These are all hydrocarbon-based products. Yeah. Except for the vinyl chloride it has carbon, it has hydrogen, it has the chlorine molecule. So these will break down over time.
Are there dead animals all around this site? Do you see dead squirrels? And is this just we hear media shit?
Well, here's a funny thing.
I mean, the Canadian geese were flying over, so they went right back.
There was the story made national news about an individual in North Lima that said her chickens died.
I saw that.
But right across the street, within 100 yards of her house, is a hardware store, Cross Mill, John.
Yeah.
He has like 30 chickens, sheep, and goats, and all kind of stuff, and not one of his chickens or sheep or anything died.
One of our ducks and chickens died.
So, you're going to see, if you go down to the creek, you would have saw dead fish, and they did clean it out, and that's understandable, because when this stuff gets into the water, it's going to kill aquatics, and, so yeah, you're going to see that. But as far as chickens dying in North Lima, 6 of them, when you have 100 yards away, you have a guy that owns 30 of them, 30 to 50 of them, and none of his chickens died. So I have to be a little skeptical.
Do you think that by midsummer everything will be okay, or do you think this is going to be a lot of long-term effects?
No, I'm thinking it's going to be a little drug out a little bit, but it's just. I think it's just a matter of, cleanup and what they're. I don't think nobody's got real good answers yet on the cleanup.
Sounds to me like the train, that track is very busy. And they don't want to shut that track down, because it seems to me that half a mile section right there, they should go in there and wipe all that out and put all new dirt and take all.
What would the
out.
cleanup look like on this project?
Huge.
I mean, you would have to dig up all the soil, and you'd have to test the soil and make sure you go down deep enough to get everything.
Yeah.
So you have to start at ground zero, okay? And that's where the cleanup starts. And then you work your way out, because now you have all this product going downstream. So now, once you clean up ground zero, then you start making your way down the stream, and that whole river or creek bed needs to be dredged. And then when you start getting into the Ohio River, I mean, I don't know. They're saying it made it to Ohio River already, and obviously I don't know what they're going to do with that. That would be up to the EPA and stuff, but you got to start at ground zero.
But the longer that this drags on, wouldn't that contamination get deeper into the soil and deeper into the streams in Ohio River?
Potentially, yes.
So, I mean, we could, by delaying any cleanup effort, we could be magnifying the problem.
I don't think you're going to stop it from going down the Ohio River. I don't think there's any way of doing
but
that.
there would be the stopping point would be much closer to ground zero rather than it being spread out more.
I think you're
going
to
be more localized.
I think if they're going to do much of a cleanup, I think you're going to see that railroad company file bankruptcy. You'll know then that they've got a really expensive track to hold it. They'll file bankruptcy to limit their.
But I just don't know how, if they're not starting cleanup immediately, how they ever plan to do it, because it's just going to spread too much.
The one good thing about this area is we have a lot of clay in the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So that prevents a lot of stuff seeping way down deep. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's one thing good. But like I said, you would have to talk to a soil expert, and I mean, I'm just giving a guess here. Definitely not a soil expert. You'd have to talk to somebody about that as far as long term and what they need to do.
It sounds like I don't know. It sounds like it's just fucking anybody's guess at this point.
Right. I mean, you're looking at, like I said before, over 300,000 gallons of product that was released. I mean, either by fire or spilled onto the ground. You know.
When I got down there, met up with the guys, Steve and Jared, which they were on the tanker on the north side of the track fighting a fire over there. The amount of liquid product that was running back west on the tracks was just impressive. I mean, it was a river of liquid.
Yeah, it was coming right at us, and it was a drainage ditch on the north side of the tracks that was completely full, and then in between the two tracks was completely full of product, and actually went underneath the street into the pipe, came up the other side, and was catching a building on fire, and that's where me and Jared did our operations, and Jared was able to successfully put out the fire on the building, and we stopped the product from burning any farther than that point. But I mean, Jared walked through the product, and his heel of his fire boot came off.
What?
So, yes.
Melted off?
Yeah, it came off.
Well, like,
not melted.
it like attacks the glue. Like,
yeah,
oh, it attacks the adhesive?
Yeah, and the heel came off, and it was flopping around like a sandal.
Yeah, he had a rough time walking the rest of the night.
What?
And his gear got discolored
because of the heat.
Because of the heat, it's rated at 450 degrees, and it was hotter than 450 degrees. So it discolored his turnout gear.
I just read a deal that said that in a chemical spill on clay soil that you need to take out at least 6 to 12 inches of topsoil. Then you take all that out and then put lime and charcoal on top of that. So can you imagine the amount of money to take off 12 inches of soil for everything there?
Well, it's just shutting that rail down. To do it. How many millions of dollars they're going to lose a day just to do it?
Yeah, that's why they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they were telling us how much they were losing a day just by not being able to use the two rails. I mean,
$1 million a day.
I think by Sunday, they already had thousands of tons of stone lined up in between the tracks to the west and east of that problem where the tracks were. And then they already had the rails and ties. They were starting to assemble them because they were just waiting for the go-ahead so they can put those rails in operation. And the one rail is an Amtrak rail, and at 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Amtrak would come through there. So it shut Amtrak and Norfolk Southern down.
Do you feel like the people at Norfolk Southern had more of a communication with the federal government than y'all did?
Well, I don't think there was any. Well, because on Monday I was in the command center the whole time, and I don't know. I think there was more communication between the rail company and the state of Ohio than there was. I mean, other than NTSB being down there and the US EPA, at the time, I didn't think there was any other federal, unless they were hiding out somewhere. I didn't know they were there. But
Pistol Pete wasn't around.
No.
So yeah, there was more communication between the rail line and the state of Ohio than I think the federal government.
Do you think that the Norfolk had more communication with the state than y'all did? Do you think they had open channels to them more?
I think when DeWine stepped in, I think he,
DeWine, I think, did some yelling.
I think the little guy was pissed.
How is a governor of a state? That's not the first thing on your plate. Hey, we had a train derailment with a bunch of people being affected in my state. I'm going to go see what I can do to help them. I don't understand how that's not the first thought process these politicians have.
Yeah, it's taken a while for some of them to get down there the way I feel.
Well, I mean, you figure it not that this is an excuse, but it was a Friday night, so
right.
All weekend, they don't go to office until Monday. So, and that's when things started happening on Monday.
It's bullshit. You got a phone, call someone up. Someone at the state of Ohio should have called and said, hey, we need the governor to take care of this shit on Friday night, or at least Saturday
they
morning.
Fucking plans, Jeff. It happened Friday night. I'm sure they were all coked up and probably drunk by then.
I don't give two shits. But see, but that's
I was. I don't know about them.
Yeah. to me, that's a problem.
I'm
You
not.
know?
You can't call me Friday night and expect an answer.
But I'll bet
Or
you.
at least a strict one.
Yeah. But I'll bet you when they run for office next time they come around on their campaign and they're talking about all the things they do for the people, they don't give two fucks about anybody that votes for them. They only care about themselves. They should have been there that night. It just blows my mind. I waited till Monday. Oh, Monday at 8. Well, I guess we'll go call and check on that train deal.
That's the difference between a working man and a politician.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you're guaranteed to get help on Wednesday because on tomorrow, which is Tuesday, they will do something because Trump's coming there, and by God, they don't want to look like he's ahead of them, which he's 2 fucking steps ahead of them every day anyways.
Hey, no, hold on. So
I hope he brings a Trump train.
I hope he
Yeah.
does too, buddy. I'm riding right on that son of a bitch.
one report I saw was that they were arresting journalists. Is that all horseshit, or did we see any of that?
Oh, shit.
No,
They're going to
that-
knock our door down.
that actually happened. The journalist, I can't remember what
It was out of DC.
out of DC News something, and
It wasn't Newsmax. It was
No, it wasn't
News
Newsmax.
Nation.
News Nation, and he was when Governor DeWine went to go speak. All the other journalists became quiet and they turned the cameras. This gentleman was still talking in front of the camera, like giving a dissertation what was going on. And I think what happened was someone asked him to be quiet because the governor was speaking or starting to speak, and then egos got involved, and the National Guard colonel or major said he threw up his hands. He thought he was going to get assaulted. So the cops went over. They told him he had to leave. He refused, and they wrestled him to the ground, cuffed him, and took him to the county jail.
Sweet.
So he was released on OR bond, and later the charges were dropped against him. So
What's an OR bond,
Yeah, that-
Judge?
What'd you call it?
OR?
We call it PR here.
Oh,
yeah, OR, own
Yeah,
recognizance.
public,
you know,
personal record, same thing.
oh, okay.
yeah, personal
So it wasn't this big cover up like all anybody that asks a question is going to get taken away in handcuffs. He was playing a silly game and kind of flirting with a line, trying to.
Oh, I mean, I retired 28 years in law enforcement here up in Youngstown, and he baited them and he won.
Right.
Yeah, even though he had a right to talk and everything, but what happened was he got the National Guard major all fired up, and egos started. And then when the cops asked him to leave, he refused.
Played
And
high. The emotion. Everybody's emotions were high and
Yeah.
tired. I mean,
so
that was-
I think the journalist played the people like a fiddle, and he's gonna have money in his pocket at the end of the day.
Well,
He's a
and
real journalist, not Don Lemon.
No, he was doing
Yeah.
it to go viral. That's what it was.
I'm sure.
That's all.
Yeah.
That
Oh, absolutely,
That-
absolutely.
You can't pass a tragedy by if you're a Democrat or a journalist. Just the way it goes.
he saw it as his chance. There was something else I was going to ask. Oh, a lot of people are making a big stink about. I guess East Palestine handed out. What's it called?
Water check deal where you can check that your quality of your water.
No.
That wasn't what it was?
Not
Condoms?
that. It was my ID program.
Oh, so yeah, that's not. If the local news covered that today, I'll kind of touch on that. That wasn't like some conspiracy theory or something. That was months back. They were starting that as like for first responders, as like if you're diabetic and they come on you unresponsive, but if there's no like bracelet or something that says I'm diabetic, or you start checking stuff. But if you could scan something, it has a QR code that we'd be able to scan. From my understanding, it's like a private access that first responders would be able to access it.
Shit, they did that about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, this is way back, but it was a way for first responders to kind of access. And I kind of like, we had an issue with the Alzheimer's guy ran away from his house in Springfield a couple years back, and we had no idea who he was. He was just wandering around in front of a store. He ended up coming from a couple houses up the road, but at that time he thought he was, something else. He had no idea where he was or where he's from. So like we had to take him to the hospital, and it took him a day or two to figure out, somebody reported him missing, and then they figured it out that way. But if you had a bracelet or something that the first responders could scan to do it.
Right.
Well, that's
this
in West Texas now, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, they just passed them out in Ohio." And
Right. Yeah, because everybody's out here is like, well, it was just this big pre whatever attack, and Now, like Jeff said, we're starting to see it in West Texas. So everybody's like, fuck, are we next? Like, what do we got?
Thank God we ain't got a train tracks here.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't like some conspiracy theory or something there. That was actually a joke down there that like somebody came up with that. Like seriously, but that was a theory that they came up with for that.
Yeah.
But I think they covered. There should be a story on the local news. The chief and lady that's kind of helping run it. They were on the news, the local news tonight, talking about it.
Okay.
Did we lose them?
No, you're here.
Oh, no.
Last question. Can you still hear me? From me, at least.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
If we go, go to
it.
East Palestine in a restaurant, nice pizzeria. I don't know if they have a pizzeria there or not. Are we going to order? Are we going to order tap water or not?
I drink the tap water. I've drank the tap water.
Would you drink well?
Now.
Would you drink well water?
No.
Unless
if it was tested.
Yeah, if it was tested and cleared, I would drink it. But no, if it wasn't tested, absolutely not.
So pizzeria, we'll do the tap water.
Yeah, I'll drink the tap. If it's a city water, then I'll drink the city water.
My last question.
A lot of faith. Oh, hold on. I did have one more. You said that the fire was over 450 degrees. How? I mean, is that exceptional for fires that you have seen to get over that mark?
Well, it's just his. It was close enough to him where the whole left side of his gear on him. We wear black. Our gear's black. Well, the whole left side, his legs, his side, his arm, side of his helmet, it's brown now. And that means the gear reached its temperature where it changes its
like burn the dial.
And it burned the gear where like he has no protection where that's brown anymore. I mean, that's like it's on the verge of catching on fire. So
it reached an exceptional level of heat.
Right. Yeah. In a house fire, you get this almost the same kind of temperature because you're enclosed, and so all the heat's at the ceiling, and firemen usually are on their knees fighting the fire, so they're below the heat. But this thing was so massive, you were just right next to it.
Standing outside.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much heat because remember a lot of that stuff was hydrogen or hydrocarbon-based products, which is very hot. I mean, you have a lot of carbon and hydrogen in those chemicals, and it burns hot.
Well, that makes sense then.
All right, my last question. My last question. This is a serious question too. Okay.
I can tell by the way he's setting it up. It's not.
Was the guy driving the train? Was that also the same kid that was kicking field goals for Ohio State against Georgia?
Told you.
Oh man, that one's never gonna end.
I told you it wasn't gonna be serious.
Well, guys, we appreciate y'all being on here. Thank you for the information. I hope the federal government does the right thing and takes care of the good people in Ohio. I appreciate all that y'all do. Volunteer, paid firemen, whatever you do. We need y'all. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all, and God bless y'all.
Yep. Thank you.
We'll see y'all
in December. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. See you guys.
Great guys. I'm telling you right now, volunteer firemen are the backbone of small America.
Telling you what.
Guys take their own time to go out and do stuff on their own. A lot of them spend their own money. They spend tons of their time to protect your ass and my ass while we sit at home in bed at night.
I can't believe that they don't have a hazmat. Fifth biggest city in Ohio, and they don't have a
funding.
Yeah, I mean, they're all volunteer.
We're spending all of our money in Ukraine. We have no money for America. And now we're going to pay the pensions in Ukraine. Can you believe that shit? Do you give a shit if a guy worked at a car dealership in Ukraine the whole time he ain't getting his pension?
I don't really give a shit.
Me neither. I don't care. All right. Thank y'all for listening. This is coming out tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that it?
That's it. Oh, coming out now. If you dove hunter, get ready. Boss 9, Stanfield 9s. It's a new shell by Boss. It is perfect for dove and teal.
Small ducks.
Woo! Be way to go.
We shot it all September and October.
Yep. Stanfield 9s be coming out soon. Be coming out early summer, and that'll be from Boss Shot Shells.
So go check it out. Goodbye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, go check out our sponsors. Go check out Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Shin Gear, Gundog Outdoors, Pacific Calls, Dive Bomb Industries, Boss Shot Shells, Mossberg, Hunt Proof App, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Bangtail Whiskey, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, and Double T British Kennels.